Welcome to day 13 of the Gospel of John book club. And in today's reading, 38 years waiting for healing, waiting for a miracle, and finally it comes. Now, have you ever felt overlooked? Have you ever felt pushed to the side? Have you ever felt pushed to the back of the line? Get back. You want to tune in for today's reading.
That's a long time to be waiting for something.
That is long.
I don't have patience. I don't have that kind of patience.
Well, listen, sometimes you don't have an option.
That's true. Well, today's reading is coming from the Gospel of John, chapter 5, and we're reading verses 1 to 15. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holidays. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethsaida, where 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he said, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me in the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone always gets ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But his miracle happened on the Sabbath, so the Jewish leaders objected. They said to the man who was cured, "You can't work on the Sabbath. The law doesn't allow you to carry your sleeping mat." But the man replied, "The man who healed me told me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" "Who said such a thing as that?" they demanded. The man didn't know, for Jesus had disappeared into the crowd. But afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and told him, "Now you are well, so stop sinning or something even worse may happen to you." Then the man went and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had healed him.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. He just got healed and they told him, "You can't walk, you can't pick up your mat." And it's like, do you not recognize the miracle that just happened? This man, I knew that this man is walking.
He's walking. and it's so crazy because he's waited 38 years.
I know.
And the very first thing they say is like, "Yo, today's the Sabbath. Why are you walking with your mat?" Like,
They're just so focused.
Like, don't you know better? You know? And I just want to tease out real quick. The Sabbath was essentially a day of rest that the Jewish people had practiced, that was instituted very early on. And essentially, it was a time of rest and rejuvenation for the body physically, but then also a spiritual rest so that they could have time to focus on God. And so, during that time, they were not supposed to work. However, the way God sees the Sabbath is that, Scripture tells us that the Sabbath was made for man, meaning that it's a time for us to be refreshed, not that we were made for the Sabbath. Meaning it wasn't all about us just following the law, following the rule, and they got so caught up in the rules of things that they didn't even acknowledge the good that had been done. And so Jesus was being accused of breaking the rules, right? In spite of having done good. And regardless of whether or not it's the Sabbath, God's doing good always trumps the Sabbath.
That's true.
But
that's a hard thing to say, because some people might be like, "What? What are you saying?" Especially though, there's still is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? I know you sometimes take your Sabbath during the week. It could be Monday, it could be Tuesday. And so, but that's still a thing for people to make it like into a religious, this is what you have to be doing.
Yeah.
Although I think for those people, I think it's something you say. I think people say that this is the Sabbath, but I don't think they practice the Sabbath the same way that the Jewish leaders.
Well, listen, I think practicing a Sabbath is just a healthy practice for us as human beings, period. And I mean, there's some theology around it. I don't want to get into that right now because it's going to come up in a couple of days.
I do need to clarify. I'm talking about Christians, how Christians practice the Sabbath. Because Jews still very much practice the Sabbath.
They practice it the way it's
how it's laid out.
Like this.
They take it very seriously. So I just wanted to clear that up when I say, I want to.
Yeah, but I always like to have one day that I set aside where I'm not focused on any work, a day that I set aside where I'm really just allowing myself to enjoy the life that God has given.
Absolutely.
But it's not like I'm not super religious about it in terms of I don't do anything, like I don't turn a doorknob, or anything like that. So I still spend time with my family. I still, take care of the kids. But I really just make sure that I'm resting from work.
Awesome.
And so I think that's a healthy practice that we also institute. But I think the tension here is that, they forgot that or didn't understand that Jesus was more about people.
People, absolutely.
And I love that this man had been there for 38 years. He had been forgotten. He had just kind of been laying there. He's like, everybody keeps going ahead of me.
They probably didn't even recognize him as he was.
Well, listen.
They were just so used to
this particular pool, this body of water that was there, it essentially was kind of known for, healing properties or something like that. And so people would come there, and that when it bubbled up, they felt like they can go in and get their healing and whatnot. And so he was just trying to get to the water. And I love the fact that, a lot of times people came to Jesus. Jesus, would you heal my son? As we saw a couple of days ago. But in this particular instance, the man didn't come to Jesus. Jesus came to him. Jesus knew he had been there for 38 years, right? This man had no hope. This man had no hope. He's like, there's no way, there's nobody to carry me there. Everybody is only really caring about themselves. And I think a lot of times, we feel like that in life, where, we might go through circumstances where we feel like, listen, like, I feel like everybody's forgotten about me.
Or even God has forgotten about us.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Life ggets so hard, and this is like, man, God, are you even here?
Absolutely.
And I think this passage helps us to remember, like, no, like Jesus sees you. Jesus sees, you in the misery. And sometimes, maybe it's 38 years, right? But that doesn't mean he's forgotten.
Oh, don't tell me that, though. I love the Lord, but if he told me I have to wait 38 years for something, I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah.
And I don't. But I think there's things that I am still waiting for. So I guess, once you have God's Spirit to abide with you, then I think anything is bearable. But this wasn't the case for him. He had really been waiting. For this healing. So I'm just wondering, does healing still exist in this form? I know that is something that is different people may say yes or no or not. I want to know, what are your thoughts on this?
I love that question.
Yeah.
We have this question a lot in some different circles that we're in. But I would answer that question by saying, well, does God still exist, and has he changed?
I like how you answered that.
And I think it's clear that Jesus, Jesus hasn't changed. He still exists. He exists. He lives in. He's right now at the right hand of the Father, and he exists. So does God still do healing? Absolutely. I think our understanding of how God goes about doing the healing is probably what we have to kind of just kind of maybe be more aware of how we're expecting healing to happen. So I think that if we're in a situation where we need healing or somebody else needs healing, one, we should absolutely believe and understand that God does heal, that he can heal, that he has the power to heal. If you don't believe it, it's all here in the Word, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So the Word gives us confidence in what God can do.
Absolutely.
And in addition to that, so we should pray for it, and we should pray for it, but then leave it in God's hands, right? And we'll probably get to this towards the end, but of the 60 days. But essentially, Jesus, when Jesus prayed to God the Father, Jesus was about to go through a tough time. He was about to go onto the cross and die for the sin of the world. Yeah. And as he, the night before, he was literally saying, God, I don't want to do this, but not my will. Let your will be done.
So I think you make up a good point as far as what we're supposed to do when we're asking for healing. But I don't want to just stop there to a physical healing, because Jesus made a point to come back to him and deal with the sin issue. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so that's a different kind of healing. Yeah. And I think that's probably what Jesus cares about. I want to say cares about more. But I will say he seems to care about this spiritual aspect of getting sin in order, that spiritual healing in a sense. And would you say that that's probably the heart of the matter, what Jesus is more after?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that he doesn't care about our physical healing, of course, but he came back to talk to him about this.
I agree. And I think he likes to meet us with the actual thing that we need, that we can feel, so that we know that he cares. And then he then gives us the thing that we were really craving, which is fellowship with him, which is eternal life with him, where we'll always be able to experience that relationship with him. So I think I love that you point that out, because he got the physical healing, but then even more so than that, he came back and Jesus said, listen, understand, worse things can happen. And he didn't mean like another injury or something like that, or handicap.
Absolutely.
What he meant was, listen, you will, if you don't, understand that spiritual healing, you will be eternally separated from God.
Absolutely. I like how it ends too, because it seems like something is gearing up to happen between the religious leaders and Jesus. Yeah. It's like this story is setting something up here, because they seem to be a little annoyed.
Oh yeah, it keeps coming. It keeps coming. So if you're feeling overlooked, listen, God hasn't forgotten to you. He comes near to those who have been overlooked and bypassed. So see you tomorrow.